So, you're probably wondering, hey, where the fuck's the I Watch series been lately? Truth is, I've been actually watching good movies lately. Drive, 12 Angry Men, Blade Runner. Although admittedly I didn't think Blade Runner was that great. Snatch by Guy Ritchie. That's actually really good. More people should talk about that movie. That's a really fucking good movie. What else? Paul, I guess. That fucking movie my parents made me watch because they knew I liked Simon Pegg and Nick Frost. How they made a movie that was bad is beyond me, but hey. So I was thinking, that was... Well, Ironic Love Paul was probably one of the first times I watched a movie because I saw the news someone was in it. And that was fucking Paul with Seth Rogen, alien, doing weed. How the fuck did he do weed when he's an alien? God damn it, Seth Rogen. So basically I was thinking, hey, I should start watching, specific directors. And one director came into mind. Oh, shit, something... I don't know if you guys saw that, but hang on. Look at feet. Quentin Tarantino. I'm making a Tarantino feet joke. First guy to ever do that ever. So I decided to start with his first ever movie. Well, the direction, who knows? Maybe he made like a short film about getting fucking his girlfriend's foot in his mouth. I don't know, but yeah, we're gonna be watching. I have watched Reservoir Dogs. This is a really fucking good movie. So, admittedly, this is actually going to be a tough movie to talk about. Why? Because it's a real fucking movie. This isn't the bullshit fucking, well, that just happened kind of fucking MCU bullshit I keep talking about, like fucking Iron Man and Thor and Hulk. I still haven't watched Thor, by the way. Truth is, I've been watching so many good movies, the idea of going back to those kind of depresses me. So, yeah. So Reservoir Dogs. So this film starts out any other way. Quentin Tarantino talking about a dick. Frankly, I'm actually amazed it wasn't fake. Yeah, the first scene of this movie pretty much perfectly summarizes a lot of Tarantino's directing style. That being horrible piece of shit people talking about just the most mundane shit. They're talking about the meaning of Like a Virgin by Madonna. They made me care about Madonna, which is like the most insane thing. The only thing I know about that woman is that American Life, bit of a fucking bum. She raps in that album. Oh boy. So yeah, I don't have enough knowledge, but I actually cared, even though they were literally talking about the most mundane shit about a song that's about a dick. And Tarantino has this amazing skill of making it interesting, even when he's talking himself. Because yeah, he plays one of the characters in this movie. He plays Mr. Brown. Is my camera slipping? Okay, I thought it was slipping for a second. So yeah, this movie is basically about a bunch of criminals. And they all use different aliases. There's Mr. White, Yo Bitch, Mr. Pink, Pinkman, it's Mr. What? This isn't even like a bit. I actually just came to that realization now. Did Vince Gilligan literally just watch Reservoir Dogs and was like, Mr. White in the pink, white, Mr. White, Pinkman. So yeah, you got Mr. White, Mr. Pink, who's Steve Buscemi, it was Steve Buscemi, and why is he attractive in this movie? Low-key, like, most of the people in this movie are attractive, especially Mr. Orange, played by Tim Roth, who, my battery case came off. Yeah, Mr. Orange is played by Tim Roth, who was our world's first I Watched returner, because he played a character, I believe it was the guy who was Abomination in Incredible Hulk, and he plays Mr. Orange in this. So, congratulations, Tim Roth, our first I Watched series returner, hopefully for many more. So, yeah. Then there's also Mr. Brown, who Quentin Tarantino plays, and there's Mr. Blue, who I found a fun little story about that. So, Mr. Blue, although his intention in the movie is basically to be like the red herring, you're meant to think, oh, what if Mr. Blue was the informant? No, the reason why he's barely in the movie, that was just kind of a happy accident. The reality is because the actor who they were working with, I can't remember his name, was a fucking headache and a half to work with. So, basically, Tarantino just wrote him out of the movie. And that's why he's so giddy at like the end of the diner scene, because they finally had a take they could use, because Mr. Blue has like one line in the whole movie pretty much, and he kept flubbing it, which is amazing. So yeah, So yeah, it's these five different guys with aliases. At least I think it's five. Like, I don't fucking remember, but yeah, you got these dudes, and you have Joe. I know he probably has a lot. It's Castro, I think. Joe Castro. Don't quote me on that. And then you have nice guy Eddie, who, look at this guy. Tell me this motherfucking guy isn't Joe. Like, I thought this guy was Jonah Hill. This movie came out in 1992, I believe. I don't think Jonah Hill was even acting at that point. But, like, he's a Jonah Hill type, right? He's a Jonah Hill archetype. You know, Fire Emblem, you got the different archetypes. Yeah, there's like the Jonah Hill archetype. So, yeah, this basically, you get the iconic scene of them all walking out to Little Green Bag. That was homaged in The Simpsons, by the way. That was where, because I was watching it, I was like, oh, this song sounds familiar. And yeah, it was because I saw it in The Simpsons, season 18, episode 2, I believe. It's fucking sad that I know that. Jesus Christ. So yeah, they have this iconic scene, they walk out to the music, it's slow-mo, and it looks cool as shit. And then we get a little fade to black where it shows some of the names of like extras for all intensive purposes. Then it immediately cuts to a man dying in the back of another man's car. That is Mr. Orange, who took a bullet to the stomach, and that is Mr. White, who's driving it. And we find out Mr. White's name is Larry, which is the big no-no, because they whole the point of using aliases was so, you know, they wouldn't know each other's names, because this was a big heist thing. Yeah, that's something that's really cool about this movie. This is like a heist movie, right? You don't see the heist. You see pretty much everything building up to it, pretty much everything leading after it. Like, most of this movie takes place in like a single fucking location that's just like an abandoned, I think it's a funeral home, because there were like coffins and hearses and shit. But yeah, for the most part, this movie is just Mr. Blonde. That's the one I was fucking forgetting. That's Mr. Blonde, played by Michael Madsen. How the fuck did I forget that? How the fuck did I forget that? Jesus Christ. He's like one of the most important characters now. I just blanked out of my mind. Fucking hell. So yeah, he drives, you see Mr. White is the one driving, and he drives Mr. Orange back to their little like warehouse thing and puts him on the stairs. And he's basically comforting him because Mr. Orange is completely convinced he's going to die, which he probably is, because fucking look at him, he's like a bullet to the stomach, and there's more blood than I've ever seen in a fucking movie. I'm starting to think there's going to be a trend going on from what I know about Tarantino. People saying the M word, which happens in this movie, by the way, and just a lot of blood and violence. This just sounds like every fucking teenage boy's wet dream, Jesus Christ. So yeah, and then Mr. Pink comes in, it's played by Steve Buscemi, and they basically come to the conclusion there's a rat. Someone has told the police, because the police were there immediately. There wasn't any kind of like setup. It was just immediately the police were there. They started shooting. They already killed. They already killed Mr. Brown because Mr. Orange and Mr. White saw that happen. But they don't know what happened to Mr. Blonde and Mr. Blue. And basically they're just waiting for Joe to get there because they all agreed to be there afterwards. But since barely any of them showed up, they're convinced they're fucking dead. So, you know, they spend a little while talking about who the rat might be, and then Mr. Blonde shows up, and he has this fucking fast food, and it's such a funny see him walk in, he has like a fucking bit of soda, it's really funny. Tarantino is like at least in this movie, I think he's actually really funny, in a lot of like subtle ways as well. Because like the way this guy just walks in and just so casually has a fucking soda, like it's nothing, it's just funny. Like he just went, because I'm just imagining the mental image of him just going to like a fucking Wendy's. It just be like he's like covered in blood because they say earlier Mr. Blonde's like a psycho and just starts shooting every fucking person. So I'm just imagining Mr. Blonde is just there, covered in blood. He drives into the Wendy's. Hey, can I get... There's a fucking motorbike going on. Just going around the fucking block. God. But... Jeez, he's not even moving. He's not even... No, is he moving? I don't even think he's moving. I think he's just revving in one place. So yeah, Mr. Blonde, he just drives in and he's just like, can I get french fries and soda? Sir, what's with all the blood? Jesus Christ, what the fuck is this guy doing? He's just revving. He just keeps revving. I'm trying to do a joke here. And actually... Yeah, I think that was him going away. Thank fuck. So he just drives into her and he's just like, hey, gotta get a soda. What's all the stuff in the clothes? It's ketchup. I was a hungry boy earlier. Scoffed out a burger, went all over me. Scoffed out another burger, went even more all over me. So yeah, he comes in there and we find out that he kidnapped a cop. He took one hostage. Which, fun fact, in the Reservoir Dogs PS2 game, which there is a thing of, I don't have, unfortunately, but I have a Final Fantasy X. Speaking of which, wanna know why I've been fucking busy the past few month? Have I been doing stuff in real life? Not really. Have I been working on a big project? No, I wish. I've just been fucking watching movies and playing Xenoblade and Final Fantasy. Yeah, I really wish I could give a more satisfying explanation, but no, it really just is. I was a lazy son of a bitch. Oh well, blame me all you want. So yeah, they kidnapped in the PS2 fucking Reservoir Dogs game, taking hostages is like a fucking, it's like a feature. That's the word. I was forgetting the word for feature. Jesus Christ. So yeah, basically that's like a feature. And he took the cop hostage and he brings him into the warehouse, ties him to a chair. And Mr. Pink and Mr. White are just beating the shit out of this guy. He's already spitting out blood and stuff. And then Jonah Hill walks in. And he's like, yo, what the fuck is this? The fuck are you doing? Is that like a Jonah? I've never actually watched a Jonah Hill movie. I actually haven't. No, I haven't. I was thinking maybe I have, but I have before I started cataloging it and shit on Letterboxd, which is the worst thing I've ever said, by the way. No, I actually haven't. So he just walks in and he's like, what the fuck is this? What are you doing? And he's basically, there was one line that stuck in my head weirdly. That's if you fucking beat this guy up enough, he'll tell you that he started the fridge fire, which I don't even know what that is. But yeah, so he basically tells them, hey, we're gonna take all these cars. There's 5 fucking cars outside of that building, which is meant to be an inconspicuous warehouse, having that many people there, suspicious as shit. So, Mr. White, Mr. Pink, and Jonah Hill, they walk away, right? And then we get probably one of the most infamous scenes, the Stuck in the Middle with You, where, Mr. Blonde just tortures the fucking cop. And I mean tortures him, he cuts off his ear. Which is, fun fact, that's one of his moves you can do in the fucking PS2 game, which is really funny. So he cuts off his ear, and then he douses him in petrol whilst the song is playing. It's actually, apparently this scene was fucking disturbing as all hell. Jaws was scary when it first came out. That was like a horror movie. Now look at us. We grown. So yeah, we see this. And then, he does them in petrol, and we think he's about to, drop a lighter. Then Mr. Orange, who's been in a fucking bloody heap for so goddamn long, he comes up and he shoots Mr. Blonde, and we get his backstory. He was the rat. He was an undercover cop who actually grew somewhat fond of them, as we can see in his conversation with some black guy. He's one of the few characters who... Does he have a name? Does he get named? I don't know. I think they say his name at the beginning of the scene, but that's it. And the scene's fucking 15 minutes long, pretty much. So, forgive me for not remembering this one character's name, who only appears once. So yeah, basically it turns out that the guy, he was an undercover cop, and he made up a story about a fucking bathroom. And admittedly, it's really kind of, you get to see the different stages as he tells it, until eventually you're literally seeing the story, not as a story, but as a scene. It's actually a really cool bit of filmmaking. I really like it. It's really cool I get to talk about, filmmaking and stuff after talking about fucking Marvel movies for so goddamn long. Wow. So, he's there, and, he's talking about all this stuff, and then it shows them getting their names, and I really love just, Quentin Tarantino, why do I have to be Mr. Brown? It sounds like Mr. Shit. That's kind of how he sounds, by the way. It's funny. He doesn't sound, I don't know, Quentin Tarantino, it's not a funny voice, but it's a hee-hee kind of voice. The fuck does that mean, Tommy? What the fuck are you even talking about? Put the goddamn sunglasses back on. Continue the goddamn video. Okay. So, and then, it's a scene, and... Fun fact, I also forgot to mention we've had slurs. That's right. Slur moment. Is that going to be a thing? Is that going to be a recurring thing? Why do I take my sunglasses off? I don't know. Keep it cool. Keep the Reservoir Dogs look. So, yeah, basically... when the first one is when Mr. Blonde walks in, and they're both convinced that he's A, the rat, and B, fucking psycho, because he just started shooting people. So Mr. White and Mr. Blonde, they're pointing their guns at each other. Steve Buscemi says, what are you, a bunch of N-words? Always saying about how they're gonna kill each other and stuff. Then in the later one, is during the scene where they're getting their names, and Steve Buscemi is like, oh, why am I pink? And Joe, who's kind of like the head of the operation, basically just says, because you're a... Am I allowed to say that? Because, like, I am bisexual, but, like, does that count? I'm going to err on the side of caution. It's because you're an F word, but it's, like, not the fuck word. It's, like, the actual F word that you really shouldn't say unless you're gay. Or maybe bisexual. I'm asexual, biromantic, so I don't know what that means. I don't know if I'm, like, covered in that, so I'm just going to play it safe. Again, I dropped the fucking thing. So yeah, let me get the scene. Basically, let me see. The scene of it's just Mr. White. And, oh shit! Is it broke? It's not going back on. Oh shit! I think. Oh, no, yeah, it works. The battery of what we can. I mean, it already is broken. It's been like that for a fucking year. Like that was like pre-lockdown. So yeah, they're just talking in the car, and again they're talking about like the most mundane shit, talking about like how the heist goes down, but they just have this really believable chemistry, which is what makes what happens so sad. So yeah, then after all of the stuff with the torture scene, you then get this like nice little scene of Mr. Orange, real name Freddy, talking to the cop who's named Marvin, and they're basically just talking about how like they need to wait because the cops are set up for when Joe comes to the warehouse, and then they're going to be like. Then again, like two things, they have to sit there and bleed. So then what ends up happening is that Mr. Pink, Mr. White, Nice Guy Eddie, and Joe, they all come back, right? And they walk into the warehouse and they're like, Jesus Christ, the fuck, why is Mr. Blonde dead? And Freddy says, oh no, he's gonna kill you, and then he's gonna like cross you. No, Joe isn't here yet, I don't think. Joe comes later, but he is those other three guys. And Eddie's like, why? Because he served 4 years in prison for my dad, because Joe is Nice Guy Eddie's dad. Why the fuck would he cross him after that? And then, basically, he then says, oh, he's going to kill the cop. Just shoots the cop. Yeah, that guy's just dead. I mean, he was already bleeding out from his fucking ear being left out with a really decent practical effect, actually, of just the hole in his ear. It's actually kind of creepy looking. So, yeah, they shoot the cop dead. And, I didn't take notes on this movie like a lot of my other Marvel ones, because this is a movie I actually gave a care about. And since I cared about it, I wasn't taking notes. I was watching the movie. So, yeah, then Joe comes in basically afterwards and says, hey, he's like, this guy's the fucking rat. This is the only one I wasn't 100% on, and I was fucking right. And he's pointing a gun at him. But Mr. Orange and Mr. White, they've really grown close to each other. Admittedly, I do think this movie could have used a little bit more scenes of them, before Freddy was bleeding out on his fucking gut. But yeah, I think that he basically stands up saying like, Joe, you're making a big mistake. And then he points a gun at Joe. And then Jonah Hill starts pointing a gun at Joe. No, that's his dad. No, he points it at Mr. White. Meanwhile, Steve Buscemi, they don't actually show you this happening, but he just goes out of the scene. And so, to illustrate the scene, it's something that's like big warehouse. And there's this little ramp that presumably like goes to like the fucking like what's the thing where they incinerate you and you like turn to ashes? Shit, I can't remember what it's called when they cremation. Yeah, I guess that goes to the cremation room or whatever, and then you have and then they don't show you it, but Steve Buscemi's just hiding under there, which is funny as shit to me. So then what happens is that they have the kind of like the Mexican standoff, they're all pointing their guns. And then they all just shoot each other for some reason. And I've heard a theory, I'm not sure how correct this is, that Mr. Pink just fired the first shot just to try and get them all killed. Because, yeah, this entire movie he's been a bit of a weasel. He's basically just trying to get out of there that whole time. He's like, I'm in too deep, I'm getting out of here. So a theory I like is that he fired the first shot indiscriminately. He might not have even been fired at someone. He just fired it, so everyone else would be like, gunshots, boom. So yeah, then they're all, fucking bleeding half to death. And Mr. White walks over to Mr. Orange and he's just like holding him. I'm not one of those people who's like, they're touching, they're homoerotic, but like the way they're like in his lap and stuff. Do you think they explore each other's bodies? They should have showed that full penetration, you know? Go back to the heist, go back to the character stuff, full penetration. Back to the character stuff, full penetration, and you do that for like 30 minutes, and then it just kind of ends. That's how you should have done the movie, Mr. fucking Tarantino. So yeah, he's holding Mr. Orange's arms, and then Mr. Orange starts saying, I'm sorry, I'm a cop, I'm sorry, I'm a cop. He's like bleeding out, and Mr. White is now realizing how deep shit he made. And the literal end of the movie is Mr. Pink runs out from underneath the ramp thing into the thing. We don't actually see what happens to him, but it's fairly obvious what happens to him. Basically, he runs out and we hear very faintly, like, don't shoot, oh goddamn, I've been shot. And yeah, it's pretty heavily implied that Mr. Pink dies, but gonna be real, Mr. Tarantino, I kind of wish you didn't have that. I think it's better that Mr. Pink just runs away and it's just never heard from again. I've heard a theory that he becomes like the waiter in Pulp Fiction because Steve Buscemi plays a waiter. And in the first scene of the movie, back in the diner, Mr. Pink was saying, oh, I don't tip, I don't believe in it. You know, why should I have to pay these people the minimum wages? Why don't the government do that? Which means like half-based, I guess. I mean, not tipping kind of sucks, even if... To be fair, American tipping culture is fucking weird as shit. Here's a little... Just tangent. Big-ass tangent, right? So, here's how tipping works in Britain. Hey, you did a really good job. There's like 50p or whatever, here's some change. Keep it up. And that's it. You don't get the customary tipping. Tipping is expected when you go above and beyond. You know, you have a fun personality. You know, you make sure to give a little extra. Or you would just... Before there was like someone flushing the toilet, I'm home alone right now. So yeah, like tipping is just not really a big thing here. And compare that to America where it's like customary, you're like supposed to tip. Because they don't pay their fucking workers enough. America! Fuck yeah! We don't pay our fucking workers enough. So does that fly? I thought it was a fly. We don't pay our fucking workers enough just to live. We gotta make sure the workers are starving. Now they pull yourself out by a bootstrap. And then you'll be as rich as my Sam. I like making fun of Americans. So yeah, Reservoir Dogs basically ends when Mr. Pink runs out and... You know, the cops come into the warehouse, and Mr. White, Mr. Orange just fucking crying. Mr. Orange is like kind of holding... No, Mr. White is kind of holding Mr. Orange's head in his lap, and the last thing we see here in the movie is him shooting Mr. Orange. And that's how the movie ends. It's so nice being able to talk about a really fucking good movie. And when I say a good movie, I mean like good. God damn, what a movie. Also, I forgot to say what happened to Mr. Brown. Yeah, during the flashback, by the way, we basically flashback to all the stuff right before the heist. Literally, Freddy about to leave his fucking room to go be Mr. Orange. Right, and then we see the immediate aftermath of the heist where they're driving away, and Mr. Brown, you know, played by Quentin Tarantino, has been shot in the fucking head. He's somehow not, like, dead immediately. Yeah, he is basically saying, I'm going blind, I can't see. So yeah, he's probably dead. He's just not really realizing it. So, yeah, and that's also why I forgot to mention why... This is why I take notes on movies when I'm doing an I Watched. So, yeah, basically, he's like, hey, I've been shot. And, you know, you wonder how he got shot, because he says something about she. Turns out it was literally just because they go to rob a car after, you know, fucking Mr. Brown dies in the one they were using originally to get away. And when they get, like, you know, open the doors to the woman shoots Mr. Orange in the stomach, which is a shame because he was probably going to survive if he didn't, to be quite frank. So yeah, he gets shot in the stomach, and that's why he's been bleeding out in the literal first scene after the opening where he's screaming, saying he's going to die. So yeah, this movie is just overall really well made. The directing is amazing. The acting is really good. The score is like very 70s. You don't see that a lot. You don't see a lot of 70s nostalgia. It's about the 80s. It's about like the 90s. You don't see a lot of 70s, which I actually think is kind of cool. You don't see 70s, but you know they actually use 70s. Again, Little Green Bag is a really fucking cool way of opening the movie. Stuck in the Middle of You is kind of infamous due to that scene now. Apparently some people are like, oh, it's too much for me to listen to it. Like, I'm not even one of those people who's like, oh, you're a pussy. But, like, is it really that bad? Maybe back then it was, but yeah. So, yeah, Reservoir Dogs, overall, one of my favorite movies. Hopefully, fucking Pulp Fiction or whatever is next is better. Because I actually really enjoy Tarantino's style. So, you know, Just gotta do the joke. Just gotta do the joke that everyone does when you talk about fucking Quentin Tarantino. Oh god, I swear my socks aren't usually that bad. I swear they aren't usually that bad. Feet. Oh god, I feel very sorry for subjecting you guys to that. Anyhow, see you next time.